anyway, we're going to get the party rolling over here. I just asked this minority group, they're from Micronesia, so to join us this evening, just a little touch of, getting into the groove of things, And, all throughout this event, this is actually the first time that I've been in this kind of situation. The girl who's in charge of tonight, her father's been a politician in American Samoa, so she knows these kind of things, And so I am grateful for all of you that come this evening. But there's one thing we all need to remember. We need to remember the spirit of oneness. Should not let this campaign divide us. Should not. And whatever hat that you wear on Sunday, make sure you wear that same hat every day. Not you wear the different hat today because you're going to church, and then Monday comes, you have a different hat on. Thank you for coming, Brother Odell, Michelle, and Sherrie. You becoming a politician should not change who you are. Should not. Title and status of life should not change who you are. I came here 20-something years ago with my family. I guess you can call me a chop suey. I grew up in Fiji, American Samoa, Hawaii, Tonga, you name it, I've got it all. So I know all these island people. And I think this is a good mix, and I wish more people would come tonight. Because our way of life in the island, we don't look at you as white. We don't look at you as purple, whatever. We look at you as a person. And as a child of God, or as a man of God. You priesthood, you're a man of God. And us women, we are a daughter of God. So, what I'm asking here, since we're going live today, or tonight, is that should not have your status and being a politician change who you are. And wear the same hat. Whatever you got on Sunday, put that on Monday. I'm watching all this, because you know what? None of this is important as you being a man of God and a woman of God. Sorry I'm mixing religion here, but hey, this is Utah. We come from Hawaii, we come from the island. We look at Utah as heaven to us. We look at you folks, when I was on a mission in Apia, Western Samoa, many moons ago, I would have my sister companion from Utah across with me. The kids run to her, not me. So it should be the way we look at each other. Talk to each other. I have only one wish, is for us. Do not run for office and have that change you. Don't. If I was a bishop, you come for your temple recommend, I'll tell you, no, you cannot have it. So, let's get this music on the way, and thank you for everybody.
Okay, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Pamela Sarah, and I am a Provo citizen. I've lived in Provo for 15 years, and my family ties are deeply rooted in Provo. My brothers and sisters went to Brigham Young University, and my father ended up coming into Provo and bought a home, and now I want to say 4 out of my 7 siblings, we are Provo residents, and we absolutely love it here. The purpose of this platform that we're here today is I am an MPA student at BYU and have gotten approval to do this as my last project for local government. I'll be done this April. The reason why I wanted to do this was, I'm ashamed to say that I have not been following this political campaign very closely. I was aware of who was running, didn't really know what each of their platforms was. And I figured that there were a lot of Provo citizens that were on the fence, just like myself, unsure of who they should vote for. I wanted to mention that I am non-biased at this point. You're basically here, we're going to be going live, so that those citizens in Provo who are unsure of, this is the time for you to win their hearts. We're not here to debate. They've heard that a lot throughout this whole time that you guys have been campaigning. We strategically picked 4 questions that we would like to ask our candidates. We will give, and so the way that it'll be run, I'll be moderating it. We'll start off with 5-minute openers, where we'll allow each of the candidates to do their opener, after which we will present the 4 questions. I will allow for 1 question in the audience or from Facebook, where we'll present that question. So nobody has received the questions beforehand and know what questions we are asking. The whole purpose here, ladies and gentlemen, is to inform the public. You know, you guys are going into public office, and it's about being informed. And I think that we as citizens, it's our job to educate ourselves and getting the right person in to meet our needs as Provo citizens. Provo is a great place to live. And this will be your platform to win the hearts of Provo citizens who are unsure of who to vote for. I'm very, very grateful for the candidates who have accepted to come tonight and take time out of their busy schedules. I know this is towards the end of the campaign, and they could be knocking on people's doors and going into the homes, but we're going live, and so you're going to go into everyone's home tonight. And we'd like to thank Mr. Miner and Sherrie Everett for being here. Unfortunately, Michelle was unable to attend, in which will allow people from her committee to respond, and she had a prior obligation and was unable to attend tonight. Right now, we'd like to welcome our candidates up. Sherrie, if you wouldn't mind coming up. And chair out here for Sherrie. Yeah. We'll have our representative for Michelle come on up here as well, and then Mr. Meyer, if you will come on up here as well.
Don't plan on standing. I don't know how you do this.
What was your name? I'm sorry.
I'm Liz Paxman.
Liz Paxman.
I've watched the debates and I don't know how you do it.
Okay. When you're reading Michelle's portion, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and letting the community know who you are on her campaign.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we'll start from right to left, if we don't mind having Sherrie, or we'll let you read your
Sure.
thing from Michelle, and then we'll let the ladies go first, if that's okay.
If that's all right.
And then we'll excuse you, yes.
Okay, thank you. So are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, I am Liz Paxman, and I am a 5th grade teacher here in Provo, and so I'm excited. I have to say I'm super excited about Pam's project here because I'm an educator and I love people in education and working hard. So Michelle is at Nico Italia Pizza, where she made a commitment with them 6 weeks ago to have a cottage meeting tonight. So she'll be there from 6 to 8. And so that's where she is, and that's why I'm here. But I have a statement from Michelle that I will read and stick to. So what do you think Provo needs as its next mayor? It's a big question, I know, but after talking with hundreds, if not thousands of you about this, I've gained a sense of what you think Provo needs. You've helped me identify 3 key features as your next mayor, each of which I feel I would bring to the position should you choose to elect me. First, someone tight-minded on budget who understands that needs come before wants. In my decades of service in this community, I have gained the reputation as a good steward of funds. Put another way, I'm tight-fisted on spending. At the same time, I know what truly worthy causes are sometimes take sacrifice and funding. If Provo has a need, I will champion it fearlessly and with tact. If it is a grand, unnecessary project at the taxpayer's expense you're looking for, I almost certainly won't be your best friend. Second, someone who knows and understands the issues well and has built positive relationships. And the decision to run for mayor, it is not one I made lightly or shortly before the filing period. For well over a year, I've been preparing myself in addition to performing my duties as a current elected officer on Provo City School Board, helping manage a multi-million-dollar organization for the last 6 years. I've been readying myself to be an effective mayor for you. From attending city council working sessions to visiting community groups and leaders to countless chats on your front doorsteps throughout the city, I've taken time to learn from you and build relationships. Thank you for sharing what's important to you with me. And finally, someone who will be an ambassador and champion for Provo's business community. Major business leaders encouraged me to run for mayor. I was told they saw in me what was needed for Provo's business community to continue to thrive and grow. A healthy business community benefits all of us in Provo, bringing jobs, revenue, opportunity, and conveniences to all of us. If you want a dynamic and engaged ambassador who will partner with and champion the business community, please consider me for the job. If you haven't met with me or would like to talk to me, please call or text me at 801-319-4999. Together, we can keep Provo strong. Thank you.
I prefer we sit. Is it all right to stand?
Is the camera
Yeah,
okay?
you can.
Okay. Yeah.
It's okay to stand? Well, let me pick up on this educational theme in introducing myself. I'm also an educator. The predominant part of my life has been spent in state and local government and in consulting with governments. I did teach at Utah Valley University for 14 years on the professional faculty. So in that regard, another educator. Yeah, so one of the great joys of life for me is having students that I meet out on the street, wherever, saying, hey, I was in your class in American Constitution, or I was in your class in American National Government, or whatever, so that's been enjoyable. I haven't been running for this position for a year, like Michelle. I've been running for this position since the 1st of June when I was invited to enter the race by members of the Provo City government. And it wasn't particularly on my agenda at that particular time. However, I'm sure I was approached because I'd served in the city commission before. Provo used to have a commission form of government by statute. It changed in about the 1980s to a council mayor form of government. And that's good because there's a little more representation with a council mayor form of government. A commission is just 3 people, and both the legislative and executive branches are combined in that. But I am happy to be in this race, and I am happy to represent the citizens of Provo, all the citizens of Provo. The main thing I think I bring to this race is proven leadership. I have been in the office before. I have been behind the dais. I've made decisions relative to the streets and roads and sewer systems and water systems and public safety systems that we have in the city. So it's been a joy to me, actually, and it set a pattern for my life at a fairly early age. To my knowledge, I was the youngest commissioner ever elected in Provo, and it was a singular opportunity for me to serve in that capacity. Provo's changing, and Provo's at a crossroads. As a matter of fact, the sales tax revenue is pitifully low, and we don't have to look very far to see the problems that the city has. The south of University Avenue is devoid of many of the retail establishments it used to have. Major tenants are moving out of Town Center Mall. And by the way, Town Center Mall was originally planned for Bulldog Boulevard at 5th West. It changed from that location and moved where it is now, and somehow Town Center doesn't quite seem like that's appropriate. So maybe in some of the refurbishing that will occur here, it will be more appropriately named. Big changes are coming there. I think positive changes. There's great management down there at the mall. And there's some changes coming at Plumtree Mall on University Parkway. There are some concerning issues also besides tax base and finance in Provo. Fundamentally, citizens need to be much more engaged than they are. As a city commissioner some years ago, I am very proud to say that we started the neighborhood program. And it's one of those great things that has succeeded through the years. Currently, however, neighborhood chairmen don't find themselves very well defined. They're looking for more definition. And I would like to see that change. Without elaborating and making this too long, let me just say that we need to expand what neighborhood chairs do. There needs to be more of an involvement. There needs to be better definition for them. I call that statutory advisory groups, and we'll be working on that as your mayor. I think my 5 minutes is pretty well finished, isn't it? It's
30 seconds.
okay. Let me just say this. We've sounded 3 themes. One is we will lead in the city. We will listen to all voices. Every voice will be very inclusive. And we will respond to the citizens. Government is better when it's closer to the citizens. And that will be the theme of the proven principled leadership Provo receives when I'm elected mayor on Tuesday. Thanks for this opportunity to be with you all tonight, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you so much. Provo is changing. We're going to grow. It's going to happen. And the only way that we're going to grow and maintain that sense of community that we love is if we guide that growth. So I've been working on that as I have served as a council member from 2008 to 2012. I've served as board members on nonprofits dealing with healthcare, housing, all these other things in our community. And I've served so that we can get around to our jobs, be able to bike safely in our community on our Transportation Mobility Advisory Committee. And I went to UTA to represent us, to make sure that our needs were met at UTA as we build this system that we're investing in for the future. I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but what my friends are always saying is, you talk about all your qualifications and all the things that you've done, but you never tell anybody about you. I'm a single mom. 18 years ago, I found myself into an unwanted situation after a 17-year marriage. And I had to strike out on my own. And I had 2 children, and they are the most resilient, incredible children who are capable and good. We bought a home over in West Provo 18 years ago. We landscaped that home. We dug a pond. I fed a friend of my son's, and he's become part of our family with his wife. We have fed every niece and nephew that has come to BYU every Sunday at our house. And they're all gone now, and we're starting to feel a little bit sad that they've grown up and left. But that's part of this community. That's the part that we love. I've served in my church. I've served in my neighborhood. When I was on the council, when I left the council, I went back to that neighborhood program and serve now as a vice chair in my neighborhood, going to those neighborhood meetings when they have them and helping to represent that voice. There's no ego here for me. This is about serving this community. And this is about helping those in this community who feel like they have not had a voice or have not had an opportunity to understand the complexities of government. I'm a government whisperer, and I've been doing it online for a really long time. And what I have seen happen in this community is magical. Because guess what? I'm not the only government whisperer anymore. You are. You're engaging. You're asking good questions. We're working together. And that's just the beginning of what's possible for this community. We don't need to be fearful of growth. We can handle growth. We've been handling growth all along. But if we stay together and stay connected as a community, then we can create the kind of community that includes people, that values people, that helps extend that love. When I was on the council, I helped us develop a rebrand of our logo. And the theme that emerged from that was welcome home. And as I've knocked on the doors, as I've come and talked to you in your neighborhoods, and I've heard that you've moved back, that you've come and started businesses in this area, that you love our downtown, that you love each other, that you love your neighborhood where you're at, even if it has different challenges and problems. Welcome home. Provo's home to all of us. I came here as a student, I stayed, I'm raising the next generation, and that is the story of all of us. So let's work together to create the kind of Provo that is full of love, kindness, tolerance, and goodness as we face the challenges that will come our way, because we can turn those challenges into opportunities for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Odell and Sherrie, for sharing your opener. We had put out 4 questions to the community, and these are the ones that they wanted me to ask. The first question is, what do you believe is the role of a mayor? What unique qualities would you bring to that role? We'll start with Sherrie, if you don't mind standing in.
We have a corporation that employs a lot of people, and I'm going to stand back up because I feel so much better standing up, sorry. We have a corporation in our city, and that mayor sits at the head of that corporation and manages a very large group of employees and a very diverse group of services within the city. Public works, community development, a legal department, police, fire, let's see, our airport and all those fall under there, sanitation, all that area. And then we also have information systems and outreach and customer service and a power company and all these things. So it's very complex, and we rely on some great expertise in our city. But a mayor, I think their role is to set the vision and the course for this community, to bring the things that I've learned as I've come and talked with you, and will continue to talk with you, to bring that vision to the city. We have separate but equal branches of government. This will be the first time in a very, very long time in Provo's history that we will have somebody who has served on the council, knows what the council needs, and can help the council and work together with the council, because I've been there, and I've been there recently. We need to work together as a council because they're going to set policy for our city, and they're going to provide oversight for the budget. So my job is to make sure that we're fiscally responsible and that we're spending in the right way, and that we have the vision of being able to have the right tools and buildings and things and services so that your trash gets picked up, that your toilets get flushed. Those are the things that matter, that you can drive down the roads, but also so that we're preparing for jobs in the future and economic development and keeping our taxes low. So my job is to look out and say, what is the smart economic development that we can include in this city that keeps our taxes and fees low, and we manage that budget effectively.
Sure. Would you like me to repeat it?
Thank you. Would you please?
What do you believe?
I think the audience would like you to repeat it.
Okay, now I'll speak loud. What do you believe is the role of a mayor? What unique qualities would you bring to that role?
Well, the state of Utah has a constitution, and the state of Utah also has a code. And any municipality or town or municipality is a city. Towns and cities are subservient, actually, as units of the state. We are municipal corporations. We are licensed to operate, or we are approved to operate as a municipal corporation. And the role of the city council and the council mayor form of government is specified by Utah code. And the role of the mayor in, I about started with governor there, I didn't mean to say that. The role of the mayor is also defined by statute. The mayor is the chief executive officer of a $230 million operation. The council actually has all responsibility, as in the division of powers and separation of powers, The council has full responsibility as to the budget and all monetary decisions. The mayor, as the chief executive officer, administers and executes what the council decides it wants to have happen. Those roles, again, are specified, and we don't have the time, and you don't have the notes to take on all of those statutory requirements. It's not a job that you can that you can accede to on the basis of just wanting to do that. I'm sure that everyone understands that given the amount of money and the complexity of personnel and individuals who are operating there, that it is not just a job for those who are inexperienced or who want to be there. It's an executive level job. You have to have had experience prior as an executive, hiring and firing people, making decisions about personnel and other such things. It's a great concern that we plan better in Provo than we have in the past. We've built some roads, yes, but the west side is in great need of infrastructure development. Decisions are being made as we speak tonight or in the coming weeks about growth that's going to occur out there, and quite clearly infrastructure and other things have to be in place before that happens. There's a proposal before the council now to approve more density in the west than is ever allowed before. And those kind of decisions need to be very cautiously weighed. You set precedent in municipality, and pretty soon everything starts to move that direction. So it's really important to listen to the people. Good government starts with the people, and that's why neighborhoods are so vital. We'll be listening to neighborhoods. We'll be organizing and strengthening neighborhoods. We'll be making decisions in concert with the council that actually serve the citizens in the various areas. The homeowners and the property owners are the people who really deserve a priority voice in how the city operates. So as your mayor, I'll be anxiously engaged in a wide variety of areas. Cooperation with the council is a key element, but also making sure that the council understands from the administrative and executive branch of government in Provo what the major needs of the city are and how we're efficiently and effectively responding to those is key. Thank you for your general prompt. I'll respond to that next.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Odell on this next one, and the question is, what would be your first priority if elected as mayor?
What's my top priority? Well, a major priority is reorganizing and defining the role of the neighborhoods. That'll be a top priority. A top priority will be to assemble the very best people that I know of in the city and having an economic summit on how we get more sales tax base in the city. It's diminished now to about $18 million, and preferably and profitably for the city, we need to be up closer to $60 million a year in sales tax revenue. It's diminished over the years, and it doesn't show the kind of trend that we want it to have. It takes money to operate anything, and municipalities have to operate with money. We don't want property tax owners to have to pick up the tab for everything, and this is a really key balance fiscally that we need to address. We need to address the issues with Utah County. It's a pretty sad commentary, actually, that Utah County has filed a lawsuit against Provo over parking. And ironically, that parking has to do with a major convention facility that's downtown. And while that facility has done well, it's unfortunate that we have to say that Provo City has not upheld its end of the bargain relative to parking. So we're going to need major input from a lot of key people, the downtown business people. The city's going to need to be involved in that. And we're going to have to make some key decisions on parking. We're also going to have to make some key decisions, we're going to have to do some key things relative to transit in the city. We're pretty sure that what's projected is transit use is not going to occur. And we're even more certain that the major property owners and taxpayers in the city are not benefited by what's being built right now. It's serving a very narrow segment. It's not serving the citizens who are taxed to pay for it. It's not being operated by a very efficient organization, and that's why the state of Utah is so carefully scrutinizing the Utah Transit Authority right now in terms of possibly taking that over and absorbing it into the Department of Transportation in the state. So those are some of the priorities. It's hard to say there's one, because there are many. But we'll go to work on it, and it seems like if the current mayor is going to be successfully elected to Congress, that he's going to have to get back there and straighten things out right away. And with the 435 members of the House of Representatives, we'll hope that he brings a big stick from Utah. And if he does that, then he's going to have to resign as Provo mayor. So we're seeing some discussion right now about the newly elected mayor coming into office perhaps before the first of the year. And we're ready to hit the ground running when we are successful next Tuesday.
Go ahead and read that again.
What would be your first priority if elected as mayor?
I'd like to bring our community together and the experts together, because I think there's something we don't do very well in our community. We have neighborhoods that we really value, but we also pay our experts in our community to be able to do things, and we pay them a lot of money, and then we ignore them. So we need to bring that together and be able to really wrap our heads around the data that's here and be able to understand growth and understand the challenges and what that means. We can focus on sales tax revenue, but sales tax revenue is really kind of like the icing on the cake. You have to focus on the fundamentals, and that's the businesses, the jobs, the careers, and the housing that supports our sales tax revenue. It's the icing on the cake. We're buying more online. So buy on Amazon, because we now have a deal with Utah and we get that sales tax revenue. However, we've got to fix that. So that will be one of my first priorities, is to begin a series of discussions so we understand how we need to move in this community to create a dynamic and vital community that serves us with jobs. The other thing is we are going to need to make our transit successful. And I can't think of anybody better in this race than the person who has sat as the vice chair of UTA, working through 3 years of reforms. I was there for the last year and a half, helping them restructure their governance committee. And guess what? They're not an ill-managed organization. Last week, they received a AAA bond rating, which is the highest in the industry. And they received that from Zion's Public Finance, which bonds for every single city and municipality and special service district throughout the state. They are solid. Yes, they have $2 billion in debt because they had built these systems, but they also have $2 billion in assets to back up that debt. And they're paying on time, and they've reduced the payments this year by $70 million. We've saved money on the BRT. It was delayed, and costs have risen for construction, materials, and real estate. And we're seeing the result of that. We have to connect that this action creates this consequence. And we don't do that well enough sometimes on important issues. So we're going to start doing that as a community so that we understand that the decisions we make have an effect upon us. We need a well-balanced tax base in this community. And that may mean that if we want retail, then we're going to have to put the conditions in that support retail. So you put the cake in, and then you frost it. And retail is the frosting. And retail is not stable. In the recession, as soon as it hit us all, we stopped shopping. So it is one of our most volatile revenue resources, and we have to be careful with it. So I'd rather treat it as the icing on the cake and build the sound foundation. We weathered that recession. When I was on the council, we cut the budget by $5 million. And we weathered through that recession without hurting our community. Other communities that had focused solely on retail tax base struggled mightily. So it's a matter of helping us understand what we want to become. And we are an educational center. We have land that we need to look at. We have things on the west side. I'm the only one in this race that has served on helping with west side infrastructure. I know more about the west side than probably anybody in this city, and I hope we get to talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is, we'll just go back and forth if Mr. Minor wouldn't mind standing. How long have you lived in Provo? And how would you characterize the city's quality of life? And how should it be improved?
I've lived in Provo for more than 40 years, more than 50 years actually. Actually, I went to elementary or to kindergarten at the old BYU Academy some years ago. I lived with an aunt up here. And Dorothy and I built a home in Provo more than 40 years ago. If you want those exact statistics, of course, they're available, and we'd be happy to get them to you. Second part of the question is what?
How would you characterize the city's quality of life, and how should it be improved?
Everybody wants to move to Provo. Everybody loves to move to Provo. The growth here is phenomenal because of the quality of life we have. We have a highly educated citizenry. We have a great environment, and we have assets in the neighborhoods of Provo that make property values off the charts. Everybody wants to come to Provo because it's Family City, USA, because it's Freedom City, USA. We have a quality of life here that's just unsurpassed. And it's important that we protect that. There's a lot of interest now by some who think that we need to have more high-density housing and that we need to have housing for those who are itinerant and those who don't want to have homes and families here. And that will not serve the city well as we move forward. Last part of the question again.
How do you think it can be improved, the quality of life?
How can it be improved? It can be improved by maintaining, if you will, the quality of life that we have in each of these neighborhood areas. Speak about the west side because there are some issues out there that really need attention. The city may have not been all that constructive helping some years ago. I hear this every time I'm in the west, and it's been a lot. We don't even have a grocery store west of the freeway. We don't have good transportation from the new high school. We're concerned about how we're going to move all those cars in and out every day without impacting the residential neighborhoods. We're not really in a position to smooth the road for developers because the infrastructure in the west is not what it needs to be. A major decision needs to be made on the wastewater treatment facility for the west. Right now we're relying on lift stations, pumping stations, if you will, to move effluent water from the west side over to the east bay where we have a facility that's also in need of repair. I will want to know as mayor why we don't refurbish both of those. We build a new one in the west side and we refurbish the one in East Bay. I don't see it as efficient in terms of the gravity flow of wastewater to have to try to get that one way or the other over or under the freeway. Fortunately, East Bay moves on the east side of the freeway, so there is a place for tertiary treatment water. let me just say this, and I'll conclude on this point. Provo has a very high bond rating itself, and we need to maintain that fiscal responsibility and make decisions that are very carefully couched in the interest of maintaining the quality of life we have. And that's streets, roads, infrastructure, planning, and citizen involvement.
Would you like me to read
Yes.
the question?
Thank you.
How long have you lived in Provo, and how would you characterize the city's quality of life, and how should it be improved?
So I came as a student in 1979 to BYU, and I never left. I've loved it here. I've raised my family here. I've lived all through Provo. I've lived in the central neighborhoods. I have lived in all the student housing I was on the 5-year plan. I had to find myself in recreation management for one semester. But I've lived all over through Joaquin and over through the foothill neighborhoods. I lived over by Kiwanis Park for 10 years. Loved it over there. So I'm really well acquainted with a lot of areas in our city. But I bought my home over in the west side. And, you know, it had a stigma when I bought my home, but it was the place I could afford. I love it there. It's beautiful. I'm in no hurry to build out the west side. We know about those infrastructure problems because as I master planned the Broadview Shores, those were the very problems that came up for us. They're solving them. We have a high school. I know about the transportation problems because I've worked on the roadways going through there. And on the Transportation Mobility Advisory Committee, there is a plan to have the roads opened and distributed to the high school already. And it'll be done before the high school opens. We're working on the other things. Some of the things that he's not mentioned is the fact that they're going to move the river and create a delta system out there at some point. We have conservation easements out there. And we have an airport that will serve 1.6 million people in this valley. It will never be as big as the Salt Lake Airport. But we do need more flights, going to more places and returning back from places to help our businesses and our university communities. You guys are supposed to turn my phone off.
They got it, don't worry.
Okay.
You got your kids right where
So-
they need to be.
Quality of life. I love walking down that Provo River Trail. We passed a rat tax as a community in order to make it better last year. We built a recreation center, which is the most successfully managed recreation center in the nation. It's returning $500,000 back to our budget and to the city. And you know what? We did that with participation with the public. You voted on it. We put it on the ballot. We helped you understand what it meant, but you voted on it and passed it. I believe in transparency, and so I think that is one of the things, as we look at quality of life measures in this community, we need to realize that we have a responsibility for clean air as well. And it will require us as a city to work carefully with the county and with the state as we work to solve those problems. But in my role at UTA, I sit on a board called the Mountain Land Association of Governments, COG. And they have an air quality specialist that came and presented some of the research and information that they're working on in order to help develop solutions for down the road. As we add more people into this valley, we're going to need cleaner fuels. We're going to need better mass transit. We're going to need better roadways and structuring and technology and things like that. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity to send somebody who's been deeply involved for the last 8 years in solving these very issues.
For question number 4, if there is, before we allow the closer, if there is a question from the audience that we'd like to present to the candidates, someone wants to raise their hand within the next 10 seconds so that in consideration of time, please let us know. Or if not, we're going live and we have some questions from online, you know?
We don't have any questions.
Any questions from the audience that you'd like to ask our candidates? Okay, well then, yes. Oh. Well, in response to this, if you can just give a 1-minute response in consideration of time. Go ahead, if you wouldn't mind standing and saying your question.
I came late, and I don't know if somebody faced the BRT, like how the candidates feel about the BRT.
I think that's a great question. I'd love to deal with that one. Do you
Go
want to
ahead.
go first? Or
Go
do you
ahead.
want-
Oh, go ahead.
I want you to remember a number. 2.4 million. 2.4 million boardings in Utah County last year on all of Utah's transit system, UTA's transit system throughout Utah County. 3 separate studies, all showing that ridership would be about 12,000 per day. Since that time, UVU has grown and has announced a 15,000 increase in enrollment. They're not going to be putting in parking lots. They've got to focus on classrooms. And so the BRT will be essential to bringing those students to and from the campus. That is what is going to be so important. I learned a few weeks ago that there are 80,000 car trips between BYU and UVU along University Parkway. 80,000 per day. We need this system, and we're going to need it more in the future. And I know it's tough, and people are worried about trees coming down, but the trees were diseased. They were not native trees, and we worked really hard to get 4 trees for every tree that came down. So give it 10 years, because I'm a gardener. I've never met a perennial I didn't like, and I love the beauty of nature. And so it will take a little while for that to come out, but it'll be amazing for the future generation. We are working on making that pass to our students available for a couple of years so that they get an opportunity to ride and utilize the system.
I allowed for 1 minute and 35 seconds, so you know that.
Very, very fair there, Finn. Nobody's happy in Provo about the way BRT came down. Well, maybe a few, maybe a handful, but the majority of Provo residents are very concerned about how BRT came down. It is not profitable as a system without taxpayers paying the bill. In fact, UTA has only been able to bond for revenue bonds, which means that's going to be paid by riders. And in truth, the current project is 11.5 million over budget. This is public knowledge. I'm not exposing anything that isn't already known. So major enhancements will have to either be cut out, or local taxpayer money is going to have to go into this to make this feasible. It's a system that does not solve the air pollution problem. Not at all. I think it needs to be said in fairness that 30 seconds front runner is about the best thing that UTA has going. And a lot of people are using that as an intermodal transit. But there's a lot that has to be done to make the current vision profitable and working. And there are a lot of people in northeast Provo, especially up towards the terminus of the University Parkway at 900 East and on 900 East, to see that is in fact going to eventuate the way we would all like it to operate.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the rebuttal.
No, let's go on to other questions,
Oh, no,
okay?
let's-
No, I think we need a rebuttal.
Yeah.
You put some
We'll
bad
allow
information
Sherrie
out.
to rebut for 10 seconds, and if you have a rebuttal for 10 seconds, we'll
Okay.
go for that. So
Very
it's
good.
fair.
Well, Dale, I would love to take you and show you how this system works. You have presented information that is incorrect, and it continues to be incorrect, and yet you've got a resource here with the exact information, and yet you choose to believe information that is brought in by someone else. Let me give you a couple of statistics. 74% of us wanted.
I'm not comfortable with the way this is
Okay,
going,
yeah.
so
All
let's,
right, so we'll-
that's more than 10 seconds.
Yeah,
I
but-
didn't
Let me
come here to
finish.
listen to this.
Let me
Okay.
finish.
Let's-
74% of
Okay,
us voted
this
for.
is a
Because you know you're
friendly,
wrong, so.
friendly.
I want to be friendly. I'm
Okay.
just getting
All
corrected.
right.
So have a
I want to be
discussion.
friendly also,
Okay.
but there's two different
Admit
points
when
of
you're
view
wrong.
here. and we're
Okay.
not here to listen to one.
I'm the moderator, so we'll move along. If you could please, sir.
You bet.
Okay, if everybody, you want to have more information about the BRT, please do research on your own and we'll provide that information live. Oh, we had a question? Oh, they must have left. Okay.
We do have a
fine.
question on.
We have one more question, and we'll allow 2 minutes for this last question, and we'll do the closer.
The question is, as mayor, how will you work to include all members of our diverse community?
Good question. Part of my last one, but yeah, go ahead.
Every citizen in Provo deserves to be heard, and we will work very hard at this to make sure that there's inclusion. We've had questions from some groups who haven't felt included in the past, and that will change. It's really important that they have voice and that their questions be heard and that we respond to the diversity that's out there. All age groups, all nationalities. We're a very international community in Provo, and we want to hear all voices, and we want to respond to the needs of the people that are out there.
I appreciate that. For my mailers, I didn't just include white old people on my mailers. I included my feeling about this community. I have reached out to bring in our Hispanics, to bring in our wonderful Polynesians that have run businesses in this area and have served for decades and years. I've reached out to those that are from the LGBTQ community. I've reached out to our small business owners. I've reached out to our Black and refugee communities. They're part of Provo too. And we need them. We need them to be with us. We need them to feel part of this community and to come and make their contributions because they're valuable. They're incredible. We are a community, and it's time that we put our arms out and begin acting like one.
Before we turn the time over to our candidates to do their 5-minute closer, I would like to just give some suggestions to the candidates. I would like you to approach this in a sense, this is your last opportunity to win that last voter. I want you to have that, the mindset that every vote counts, and that this is going to be your last opportunity to help win those hearts over. In your closer, I would like to, if you wouldn't mind addressing why, what makes you you? Why would we want to put our lives in your hands? You're going to be making decisions for us in the community. Why should we trust you? And I want you to say it in a sense that everybody can understand. A lot of people don't understand about the taxes, about the bonds, and all those things that go on in running a city. We want to hear what you can do for our community. I want you to touch the hearts of our Provo citizens and help them and educate them so that they can make an informed decision on November 7th. And so I would like to give you 5 minutes each to do a closer, and then we will close from there. We'll start with Mr. Miney, please.
Okay, thank you. There isn't in Provo right now a lot of concern by many of the residents that City Hall is not accessible and that there's not really time to get in front of the council and to present, to let problems be known. That really needs to change. So in the Odell Minor administration, accessibility and openness and candor and transparency will be vital elements of what we function on. The best government is when the people have the loudest voice. And That's what will be a hallmark of this administration. We will be listening. We will be leading in the issues that we hear, and we will be responding in that spirit. It's fundamental for Provans to keep Provo. I mean, there are so many voices now that say this needs to change. We have the greatest family community in the West. We have the Freedom Festival. We have all of these things that are university-based. We have this great wealth of talent in our citizenry. But there are the voices that say we have to change that. We have to move away from that. No, we just have to make it better. We have to make it more accessible. We have to make it open to all voices, and we have to respond to them. In government, there's a great need for efficiency. Fortunately, we all live in a state where the budget has to be balanced. In many states in our nation, especially in the more liberal states, where liberal voices in Provo want us to be more liberal, incur more debt, and not have the balanced budget. We have to, in Provo, have a balanced budget by state law. The state of Utah is one of a handful of states in this country that has a balanced budget. So, as with the state of Utah, Provo will operate with a balanced budget. That's really key. It's really key that we take some of the special user fees that have been applied in recent years and diminish those, especially for those who are on fixed incomes. It's a major issue. That's a council issue in a sense that they control the fees and those decisions, but the mayor, this mayor, will be urging us to be more cautious about user fees. I served on the Parks and Recreation Board. I was the chair of the Provo Parks and Recreation Board when the Recreation Center was built. I served there 13 years. And I'm very proud of how that has become exactly what we envisioned it would be. It would be a keystone for activity in the community. It not only did away with a lot of old buildings, including an old armory and some storage on 2nd West, but it made this a beautiful crown jewel of Provo. We need to make sure with what's happening downtown and in the neighborhood areas, especially as growth occurs, that we keep the same quality of life, that we keep these precious single-family neighborhoods, that we don't get to too much housing that counterbalances that. And I'll end this discussion by saying home ownership is a hallmark of living in Provo. And we need to make sure that we open those opportunities for home ownership, whether it's condominiums or whether it's smaller homes or the various other things we can look at. We need to make sure that we extend this American dream to all of the people who come to Provo. Everything else that relates to growth and managing it in transportation, infrastructure, and quality of life also need to be maintained. As your mayor, I will listen to your voices. I will lead out in resolving the problems you have. I will provide proven, principled leadership as your mayor. Thank you very much for your support and your vote.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for caring about our community. I'm a family. I'm a single parent family, and there's a lot of them in this community. There's a lot of single women. There's a lot of single men. There's people that have never been able to be married. We have young professionals that deliver your babies, that work in the hospital, that are doctors, that serve in our emergency rooms, and they deserve to live in this community too. Every single one of them. A community is not just one type. It's all of us. It's all of us. And it takes all of us. So as your mayor, you bet I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen to more than just one demographic. I'm gonna listen to the families. I'm gonna listen to the single people. I'm gonna listen to the business owners. I'm gonna listen to the experts. And then you know what we do? We take all that input and we make a single decision. And that decision is the best thing for the most people for the longest foreseeable future. That's how we make our decisions as a society. The most people for the longest foreseeable future. I have spent the last 16 years serving in this community. 4 of them as an elected official. The rest of them as a volunteer. I've got a lot of road rash from BRT. I'm called the BRT lady because I fought because of the vision of how we needed to have that. And then I went to work for you in this community to make sure that UTA delivered it. They're on my speed dial. We're gonna work through the problems. We're gonna work through the challenges, and they'll do it well because they care. They care. And the legislature's looking at them this year about how to fund for future growth, not as a reprimand. They're looking at how to fund for future growth, and transit is every bit a part of that. You're gonna make a decision. And many of you already have, and I'm grateful for being able to knock on your doors and have you tell me that you appreciate the experience that I've gained for Provo's problems and challenges. But those of you that haven't decided, you're gonna make a decision about experience. And we have a lot of experience in this race. We do. We have experience that's deep in school issues and in community service. And I'm grateful to Michelle Kafusi for that experience. We have a lot of academic experience and some city management experience that goes back to 1967 to 69 in very small communities that weren't dealing with the same kind of issues. And while I appreciate Mr. Miner's experience and his academic learning, we've had problems over the past with understanding actual data as it relates to the current situation. I'd love to have those conversations with him so that he can understand what I know, because I want him to know what I know, and I want to know what he knows. That's part of civic dialogue. I'm serving, and I want to be your mayor, because we have serious issues before us, and we can do them well, or we can stick our head in the ground and ignore them. And we can't afford that because there's a cost. Thank you.
I wanted to personally thank Sherrie and Odell for their time in coming out and answering the questions that community members have had. And thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We appreciate Michelle sending her representative from her campaign as well. But thank you for your time. And thank you for the responses that you have given. I hope that, Provo, that you're watching, that you can make an informed decision on November 7th. If you don't know who to vote for, I urge you to go and educate yourself on Sherrie and Odell and Michelle so that you can make an educated vote on November 7th. Please know that your vote counts. Every single vote counts, and to get out and vote on November 7th.
So for those that are registered, it might be helpful to say that probably sitting on your kitchen counter, if you haven't voted yet, is a ballot that you'll want to mail in. And if you can also vote in person, and there are, I think, 2 balloting places, the Recreation Center and the county building. Local government affects us, so make sure your voice is heard by voting.
Yes.
Let's acknowledge this great lady for putting this together.
Here's a little treat for you for your time.
That's all right.
But I wanted to